Welcome, everybody. So grateful to be here in this Hermanti space. B'siyata d'shmaya. Hi, everybody coming on. So lovely to see you all. So here we are, Parshas Mishpotim. And every time I choose one thing to talk about, from a whole Parsha, it feels like, how can we ignore so much what's going on in the Parsha? But still, when we think about one aspect of the Parsha, at least we're getting something, Be'ez Hashem. And if we try and grasp too much, then we end up with nothing. This week's insight is particularly deep and beautiful. So let's jump right in. Reb Asher was famous in his time for elevating broken spirits, people who had been through all kinds of things and were really broken and were dysfunctional and were not able to find their way. Reb Asher was like the magnet for these kinds of broken souls, and he raised them up. He was able to take on cases that nobody else knew what to do with, and he was able to rehabilitate all kinds of people from whatever they'd gone through and help them become upstanding members of communities. So it's just, I want us to have some kind of frame of reference about who Reb Asher was, and the kind of life work that he did was with people who were broken, people who didn't know how to find their way. Sometimes somebody would come to him, and Reb Asher would look at the person, and he would tell that person all of their averas. He could see a person's averas, and he would tell them, and they would break down and cry, and they would ask him to teach. They would ask him to teach him a way of tshuva, and he would do that. He would teach people how to their own personal tikkunim, and they would find their way back to an authentic, true, genuine relationship with the Kadosh Baruch Hu, no matter where they had stumbled. So, with that in mind, and with that context of who Reb Asher was, and that's who he devoted his life to, we can understand the insight he's sharing with us today. Sheva yipol tzadik v'kam. A tzadik falls 7 times. 7 is an illustrative number that Sheva means all the different Sheva midos. There are 7 emotional midos, and this phrase that Shlomo Melech said, Sheva, that a tzaddik falls 7 times and gets up. 7 means the 7 different emotional midos, that we fall in all the different midos, that a person could fall in all those different midos, and no matter what we've fallen in, we can rise again. That's what Shlomo Melech is teaching, and this is where we begin. That even if a person has fallen and he stumbles, the tzaddik, even if the tzaddik has fallen and stumbled, so a person could be a tzaddik and still fall. Lo yipol beruchai. He will not allow his spirit to fall. That no matter what a person has done, no matter what kinds of mistakes a person has made, no matter what kinds of situations a person has found themselves in, don't let your spirit fall. But he should get up, and he should encourage himself, and he should do tshuva for whatever the averas are. And he should stand up, and he should strengthen himself in the path that he can now go upon. The Yetzer Hara is just waiting for a person to fall, because then the Yetzer Hara can say, you see, you're no good. You see, you'll never be good enough. You see what kind of a rotten person you are? Give up now. That's the voice the Yetzer Hara comes with after we've fallen. The Yetzer Hara wants us to think and to forget that we're the child of the Rebbeinu Shel Olam, and that no avera in the world could take us away from Hashem. In fact, the Nesiv Shalom brings down that if a Yid has done the worst averas in the world, hi, it's everybody coming, and great to see you. If a Yid has done the worst avera in the world, says the Nesiv Shalom, and doesn't feel that he can come back to a Kadosh Baruch Hu and stand close to Kadosh Baruch Hu, just like a child next to his beloved parent, he hasn't even stepped on the threshold of Yiddishkeit. We haven't even begun our journey in understanding Yiddishkeit if we don't realize that no matter what we've done, no matter where we think that we've stumbled, it doesn't matter what we think we've messed up. we can come back to Kadosh Baruch Hu. And a few times this week, I was talking to different clients who had all kinds of different situations. And the thought came into my mind, this phrase, if you believe that you can spoil things, then you have to believe that you can fix them up. It's attributed to Rabbi Nachman based on saying in Chazal. But no matter if you think that you have the capacity to change something for the worst, then minimum we have to believe that we have the capacity to fix it up as well. If we don't believe we have the capacity to fix something up, then why do we give ourselves the power to think that we can mess something up as well? So either they're both not true or they're both true. If we could mess up, we can fix. If we don't think we can fix things up, then why do we think that we could spoil something? Then we don't have the power either way. So no matter what we've done, it's the heart that makes us think that we're distant from a Kadosh Baruch Hu. That is the problem of Averis, is that it makes us think that we're distant. And so a person, no matter what he's done, he comes and he falls, and then he can lift his eyes up to Kadosh Baruch and daven and say, Ribono shel Olam, I did an Avera, chatasi avisi lefanecha, I did an Avera before you. But please, Hashem, don't push me away from you, chas v'shalom. Save me from this pit of mud that I stumbled into. Save me from the Avera and save me from the punishment of the Avera. I don't want to be dragged down into Averas in this world. And I don't want to have to suffer for the Averas in the next world. I don't want either of those. Save me. And so that way, even if a person finds themselves on a path that doesn't feel like the right path, he doesn't forget a Kadosh Baruch and doesn't leave Hashem. And then Hashem doesn't leave him, no matter what he has done. Hashem will help him to come back onto the right path. And it's really important that we understand. Reb Asher brings down the Divrei Yisrael of Mashitz brings down that the more a person learns and the greater a person becomes, the more they see their own Averas. So, and the contrary is also true. The more a person sees themselves as being great and as being close to flawless, the more likely it is that they're actually going lower in level and they are seeing less of the problems within themselves, but they are actually stumbling more and more. So what we have to understand is that seeing our Averas is actually a sign that we're on the right path. Okay? And so anybody who wants to be close to Kadosh Baruch Hu has to learn how to balance living with Averas, because that's the path that a tzaddik has to live with. No matter what we've done, we have to face our Averas, and only a truly humble person can come close to Hashem, because the Kadosh Baruch Hu says, Ein ani v'hu yechol lador b'yachad. I cannot live with a gaivadik person. I cannot live with a person who has pride. And the Divrei Yisrael says a person can learn Torah, and they learn with gaiva. Their learning does nothing. And Rav Asher says the same thing over and over again, that the more a person learns with gaiva and pride and davens with pride and does mitzvahs with pride, the more worthless their mitzvahs and their learning are. It's horrifying and shocking to understand such a thing, but that when a person learns Torah, busies themselves with mitzvahs, davens to Kodesh Baruch Hu, and is acutely aware of their limitations, that is, ironically, that's the sign that they're actually on the right path. And so we can be encouraged by the fact that we are able to see our own Averas. It's actually a sign that we're on the right path. It's there to keep us humble. It's there to help us recognize that, yes, only because you can see your Averas, that's why Hashem dwells with us. And as soon as we don't see our Averas anymore, there's a great chance that we've stumbled into Gaiva. And then, Chas v'shalom, we erect a boundary between ourselves and a Kadosh Baruch Hu, because Hashem doesn't want to live with someone who has Gaiva. And so that's a major theme of Rav Asher's writings, a major theme in the Divrei Yisrael of Mashitz. And so he says here, bitter and evil is the path, is the lot of a person who leaves the Kadosh Baruch Hu. when he's done an Avera. And then he falls into the path of despair. Then he's chas v'shalom lost, unless he hurries to do tshuva. And so living with the reality of our Averas and the imperative of tshuva, that is the humble path. That's the path of closest to HaKadosh Baruch Hu. That's the path of of being genuine. Okay? If we try and fool ourselves that we're perfect, again, that whole kind of inner con of I have to make myself feel like I'm perfect, otherwise I'm worthless, is actually the path of gaiva. It creates a worthless mitzvahs because they're just done with a fake sense of I'm perfect. The more we realize that we're not perfect, that we have many faults, that we've stumbled over and over again because we're human, because that's what HaKadosh Baruch Hu has made us. And actually, HaKadosh Baruch Hu wants us to witness and live in that place of seeing our faults, because then we can have a genuine relationship with him, and then he can dwell within us. Then we have a proper place for the dwelling of the Shekhinah inside ourselves. Then we can actually we can it sounds counterintuitive, but actually that allows us to live with a kind of peace. We can feel inner peace together with the broken heart of being imperfect, but we can embrace our humanity. And it's a whole different kind of simcha than the constant race to be perfect and show ourselves as perfect and having to be perfect, because we can't be perfect, and that's fake. So the tzaddik Rav Chaim Chernovitz, the Be'er Mayim Chaim, wrote a hint to this on Parshas Mishpotim in the Sefer Be'er Mayim Chaim, on the pasuk in the parsha, V'chi yishal ish me im re'ehu v'nishbar oimeis ba'alav ein imoy shalem yishalem. Okay. If a person borrows im yishal me im chaveiro, a person borrows something from his friend and it broke, or he died, or the owner died, he doesn't have the way to pay it now. It broke and the owner died, or the owner died. Now he has to pay damages. He has to pay for that which broke. He has to find a way to pay. Okay. The Chaim Chernowitz, the Be'er Mayim Chaim, explains the neshama is re'ehu. That is the friend. So when a person borrows from his friend, as the pasuk says again here, Rav Chaim Chernowitz is hearing the subtext. He's hearing the remazim, the hints inside the pasuk, and it's so beautiful to witness how the Gedolim understood the verses and the nimshal that is brought down in the verses of the Torah. So the re'ehu, who's the friend? Who is our closest friend? Our neshama. That is our dear friend. Our neshama is within us, and the more we get to know our neshama, the more value we'll give to our neshama, the more we will treat our precious neshama like a dear friend, and we will value our friend, and we will honor our friend, and we will cherish our friend. That dear neshama, that holy, pure, never sullied neshama that dwells within us. The neshama is that friend, and if a person borrows from his friend, he borrows from his neshama. What does he borrow? He borrows its time. He borrows the resources of the neshama in order to engage with his physical activities in this world. That's what we borrow from our soul. Our soul really wants to spend its whole days contemplating HaKadosh Baruch Hu, being misaneg al Hashem, delighting in the closest to HaKadosh Baruch Hu. That's what our soul wants to do, through doing mitzvahs, through avos chverim, through tzedakah and chesed, through taking care of our families and doing mitzvahs in that way. And when we engage in the physical world in a way that is not for the purpose of a mitzvah, okay, again, clearly, we're not talking here about we're not talking about doing a mitzvah with Hinda, in a beautiful way, making your home beautiful for Shabbos, or buying beautiful kelim in order to help you to feel more attached to Kadosh Baruch Hu in your home. We're not talking about that. We're talking about when a person actually uses the strength of our intellect and our soul purely for engagement in the physical world without any attachment to the spiritual. That's borrowing. That's using the neshama on borrowed time. v'nishbar. And then what happens when we do that, when we find ourselves dragged down into the physical world, then something happens. He gets trapped in some kind of avera. That's what the nishbar means. He gets broken. The soul gets trapped down here. Not the soul within the body. Okay, our psyche gets trapped in some kind of avera, or mace, or worse, or dies. What does that mean? Then he gets trapped in, and he stumbles in an avera, something a deeply serious avera, something where it's like death for himself, like a spiritual kind of a death. Then the question is asked: In Balov Ein Imai, is the owner still around? The owner, again, in the Pshat, in the simple understanding of the verse, it's talking about the owner of the item that was borrowed. But in the remez, in the hint of the spiritual worlds that the Ber Maim Chaim is understanding in this verse, he's asking, what does it mean? Is the owner still there? Then it means, has he entirely abandoned the Kadosh Baruch Hu as a result of his Avera? Did he chas v'shalom leave Hashem? That he is the Baal of the whole entire world. Kadosh Baruch Hu, there's only one Baal, and that's that's that Kadosh Baruch Hu who is the owner of the entire world. The question is asked then. Maybe you did an Avera, okay, you stumbled to your nishbar, and maybe a piece of the person even stumbled even worse and did something that is sakanas nefashis to the soul, to the Jewish soul. But then the main question is not what you did, but what is the level of your attachment to a Kadosh Baruch Hu despite what you've done? In Baal Avimoy, im Chas Shalom, Ozav is a Kadosh Baruch Hu, or did he Chas Shalom leave Kadosh Baruch Hu? And then he thinks, well, look, I did this already. I'm already beyond the pale. The Olam is Hefker. And he thinks in his despair that Shalem Yishalem, this double language of he will surely pay. But in the Remez, the Be'er Maim Chaim hears underneath. So shame from our Avera takes us away from Hashem. Yes, the shame that we feel, it brings us to a despair, and that takes us further away from HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Exactly. And so the Be'er Maim Chaim hears in this word, Shalem Yishalem. Why is it double language? In English, it's often translated as he will surely pay. But there's a reason why it's a double language. And so the Be'er Maim Chaim says the person thinks to himself, I'm going to pay in this world because I'm going to suffer the pain of having done Averas in this world. And I'm going to have to pay another time in the next world. Shalom Yishalem, I'm going to pay here, I'm going to pay there. My life will not be a life because I've done an Avera, and I'm going to have to suffer in Olam Haba as well. And now he's completely despairing of being able to do tshuva, and he thinks bitter and bad and will be the punishment, the double punishment, because he's going to have to suffer in both worlds. The master of both worlds. So he's totally given up. He gives up on himself. He gives up on tshuva because we have this false belief, and I don't know where it comes from exactly. I think it comes from trauma, obviously. I mean, I could be blamed for thinking that everything comes from trauma, but still, we're a traumatized nation. And so it's fair enough for us to think this idea that we think we have to be perfect. And we think that if we fall a little bit, then that's it, we've gone. And Hashem only loves the perfect. And why does it come from trauma? Because when children, again, from traumatic childhoods usually, but when children are small, a child cannot survive without an adult caretaker. So attachment in children is a desperate survival need. And so Kadosh Baruch Hu was created. Shlomo Hoffman spoke about this as well in his Sefer, that children, human babies are created so dependent, as different from all other species, because the Kadosh Baruch Hu wants us to understand that sense of dependence. But what happens if children are dependent, utterly helplessly dependent on dysfunctional parents, or parents who are not capable of attaching to their child in a healthy way, which accounts for probably at least 1 in 10 or 2 in 10 of every child today. Let's understand that. Those are real numbers, okay? It's not a mistake, and it's not that Kodesh Baruch Hu abandoned us. It's that a Kodesh Baruch Hu wanted us to go through a journey of figuring out our attachment and of understanding what was going on with our attachment. And so, if a child has dysfunctional or avoidant or parents that cannot attach in healthy ways, a child has to rationalize and say, "My parents must be right in how they're treating me, that they're not attached to me, that they're somehow dysfunction attached to me. They don't know these words, obviously, but that there's something wrong here. I must be wrong. They must be right. I must be wrong." And in the child blaming themselves, the child takes responsibility for the problem, which solves two problems. The first problem is it lets the parents off the hook because a child does not have the capacity to process what it would take to process having dysfunctional parents. So the child cannot process that. So the child cannot entertain that thought. So it helps the child to believe my parents are good. I'm at fault. But secondarily, if I'm at fault, I can try and fix it by being better, by being more perfect, by trying harder. And so we try and try and try and try and try and try and fail and try and fail. But we still think, but if I would only be better, I wouldn't have this problem. If I would only be better, I would have this healthy relationship. If I'd only be better, I would have some love. People would listen to me. I would get attention. But clearly, it's me. I don't deserve it. And so we live in this kind of warp of feeling that we're never good enough, not even understanding that it's a mindset twist, but we even think that that's just who I am. It's so rooted. In fact, I got a message from one of my clients today who had this discussion with this week, and she said, the feeling of being not good enough was so a part of how I lived my life and think it was part of my personality that I didn't even realize that that's how I think. So I had such an epiphany this week after we spoke about it that I realized it's underneath everything in my entire life. And that's what comes underneath the drive for perfection. We think we have to be perfect for Hashem to love us. We think we're unlovable or unsalvageable if we do something wrong. We don't realize that the opposite is true. It's like a little child who's trying to make mommy happy and ends up knocking over the plant or making a mess in the house. A healthy, normal parent will not lose patience, but will have patience with their beloved child and understand this is the growing pains. This is how I watch my beloved child. And if I want to have 100 knickknacks around the house, as Representative Greenberg would say, put them away for the years while the child is growing up. The child is going to knock them over. The child's going to make a mess. And so we have to understand we're the children of Hashem. We're going to knock it over. We're going to make a mess. We are the beloved children of a Kadosh Baruch Hu. As Rav Meir said, Bonim Atem, you are children of Kadosh Baruch Hu, before the Aveira and after the Aveira. That's what the verse, Hashem, why are the two names of Hashem in the pasuk, Hashem, Kel Racham V'Chanu, that we're going to start saying again, we're now in Shoivavim, where there's an aspect of Teshuvah right now, but also during we're coming up to Elul in another half a year, but Purim is Kapurim. And so the theme of Teshuvah is really a perennial theme all year long. We can always be Isaac in Teshuvah because busying ourselves in Teshuvah means busying ourselves with humility. Because one Hashem is before the Avera and one Hashem is after the Avera. It's built into creation that we're going to mess up. And Hashem is the same Hashem for us, whatever we've done. And Rav says something even more incredible. He says that even if you didn't do the Avera, but you have the capacity for the Avera inside, and we didn't do anything about it, we didn't address it, we didn't humbly look into ourselves and find the root of our bad midah. Even if we didn't do the Avera before, even if we didn't do the action of the Avera, it's sitting inside us. We still have that inside ourselves. And so we have to own it. We have to recognize the midos that are inside us. We have to do a deep introspection. We have to know ourselves. And we have to embrace all of those clay feet. And we have to say that we are beloved with our clay feet. We are beloved as imperfect as we are, no matter what we've done. And so, if im balav imoy lo yishalem, But if his master is with him, he doesn't have to pay. As the pasuk says, the next pasuk, Shelo yazov es Hashem. If he hasn't abandoned Hashem, no matter what he did in his stumbling in Averas, and he didn't give up on tshuva, he didn't give up on himself, he didn't give up on his capacity to return to Kodesh Baruch Hu, even if he knows he's limited and the likelihood of him falling again is great. That doesn't mean that we're abandoned, doesn't mean that we're distant from Hashem. On the contrary, the point of this is that we're always close to Hashem no matter what we do. We have to do tshuva. We have to, it's like a person's in a relationship with somebody. If I am in a relationship with somebody and I hurt their feelings and I don't own it, and I say, well, they'll never have anything to do with me again because I hurt their feelings, and I just walk away, I've given up on the relationship. But if I hurt someone's feelings and I say, gosh, I don't know how I did that, I'm so sorry, I really didn't mean to be so insensitive, I own it, and then I try again. But let's say I'm a little bit thick, I didn't get it, I didn't really fully understand the many different ways that I could hurt my friend, and I end up hurting them again in a month's time in some other way. And I say, darn it, I really didn't want to do that. I am so sorry. I'm going to try even harder. I'm sorry that I hurt your feelings. And let's say we do it again. Let's say another 2 months goes by and we actually hurt their feelings in some different way. It might be easy to say, you know what, I'm just going to give up on relationships. I really don't want to be that kind of person. But the relationship is too precious. And I really don't want to hurt someone. And so at this point, when we keep on doing it, we have to address the fact that there's something inside me. I have a midah here. I have some lack. I have some block. I have something that I keep falling in. I don't want to keep doing this. I need to address the underlying issues. What is making me so insensitive? What can I do to really fix this? Slow down, think more, create time to actually reflect on what's going on here. We need to step back and actually address what's going on when we realize this relationship is important and I'm doing something that's creating a challenge here. That's what owning it is about. That's what humility is about. That's what tshuva is about. And it's also about recognizing that I'm in a relationship with someone who loves me and is just waiting for that, just waiting for me. They're not pushing me away. They're not saying, you're a goner, you said the wrong thing once, you're bad, which happens in many dysfunctional relationships where you think you're walking on eggshells, and no matter what you say, it's like a minefield, and you never know where the mine is and what you're going to say that's going to just block something up. And that's why so much trauma about being perfect comes from such kinds of relationships. Kadosh Baruch Hu is not like that. Kadosh Baruch Hu wants us to live and breathe and exist in that space of humble tshuva. That, yes, I do mess up. And yes, I consistently stand before a Kadosh Baruch Hu, and here, my own averas, I'm saying, I stand before Kadosh Baruch Hu every day and daven Shmona Esrei with half a mind. Because I'm not capable of focusing with full kavana through the entire Shmona Esrei. But that doesn't stop me from davening to Hashem just because I'm limited and I don't have the capacity to daven with full kavana. And just as the Chofetz Chaim said in the marshal of the woman with the apples, that she had an apple store and the apples fell over on the floor and Ganovim picked them up and ran away. And she started screaming, thief, thief. And the Chofetz Chaim said, instead of screaming, take a few apples that are left. So yes, there's a Ganev who's stealing my intention as I daven. There's a thief taking my mind away because I'm not perfect and I don't have that kind of capacity to concentrate. But at least I can grab a few apples whilst I'm in the Shemona Esrei. And whatever I can do, I can do. And that's how we have to live our lives. Release the demand for perfection. It is only going to destroy us and destroy our relationship with the Kodesh Baruch and with ourselves and with other people. When we can humbly grab whatever apples are available to us and be prepared to admit our mistakes and to fess up to a Kodesh Baruch Hu and to the people in our lives. Then Baal of Imai, then the Master dwells within us. Then we have the connection to Kodesh Baruch Hu no matter what. And that's the ikka, that's the most important thing. Even if he has fell so low, as it says in the Pasuk, Kuf Yud Tes. No, I'm sorry. forgotten which kapit it is. In Kuflamates, excuse me, Kuflamates in Tehillim. Im esak shamayim sham ata hineka. If I go up to the heavens, you are. If I have my ecstasy of the moments of the greatest joy, there you are, Kadosh Baruch Hu, with me. Hineka. And if I descend to the depths of Gehinnom in this world, if I find myself in situations that I ask, Ribbon Shalom, how could a person survive this pain? Hineka, you're here with me. You're in that kind of situation that I'm in. You're here with me. And even if a person finds that they've fallen to places that they never would have imagined that they would be, nevertheless, I call to you, Kodesh Baruch Hu, from this low place. From the lowest place, I call to you, Kodesh Baruch Hu. From the lowest part of pain, the pasuk, im esak shamayim sham ata tzishal hineka, is in Tehillim Kuf Lametes 139. David Melech wrote that chapter in Tehillim. And mimamakim, from the depths I call to you. And Rabasha says, even from the depths of my failing, from the depths of my falling. And again, we're saying that it is a positive trait to recognize that we've fallen. It is a form of gaiva and pride to think that I haven't fallen and to create a pretense as if I haven't fallen. So it's a positive state of mind to recognize that Raveira is to a Kodesh Baruch Hu. And to say, save me, lift me up, help me, guide me, bring me back into Shuvah. Hashivenu Hashem Elecha, bring us back and I will return. You help me to do tshuva. And then, Lo Yishalem. And then the Be'er Ma'am Chaim hears again the whisper underneath the pasuk. He won't have to pay. You're not Salmina Peronius. He's going to be forgiven and he won't have to pay. He won't have to suffer. We think, I'm gone, I'm finished, I'm going to have to pay. The bomb's gone off, I'm doomed. We're not doomed. That again is another falsehood from dysfunctional relationships that make you think that you're bad, you're evil, you did one thing wrong, that's it, you're blitzed. That's not how it is with the Kadosh Baruch Hu. No matter what we've done, we can always come back. Because when we live our lives as Anu Banecha, we are your children, and we realize that Kadosh Baruch Hu loves us as his beloved child, then Ata Avinu, and you are our father. And when we know, when in the moment of our fall, at the moment when we fall in pain or despair or a thought that wasn't appropriate or an action that wasn't the best, or we didn't do the mitzvah the way that we wanted to, whatever it was, and we say, Tati, help, and we say, Ribbon Shalom, help, and if, as I know so many women sometimes have a hard time thinking of HaKadosh Baruch Hu as Tati, you know what we could say? King, help, beloved, friend. We can call Kodesh Baruch our friend, help. You can say Eavesdropping, whatever word speaks to us, whatever we say. But when we talk to Kodesh Baruch Hu, and we say, please help, then a Kodesh Baruch Hu, who is our beloved parent, he's going to help us, he's going to support us, and he will lift us up from wherever we have fallen. And even if a person goes very far in any kind of avera, whether it's giving up on himself, whether it's not treating himself or herself as we should. Maybe it's not making enough time for ourselves in our own mitzvahs or whatever. We all know our own failings. Okay. Nevertheless, it is said, nobody is eternally pushed away. Nobody is. And as long as there is an attachment in our souls, we are connected to our Kodesh Baruch Hu, we will never be lost. We always have hope that we can come back and that we will be fixed up and Kodesh Baruch Hu will guide us. This is the hidden conversation between the neshama, that we borrow time from our neshama down into this world. We entrap the neshama with the lowliness of this world and all kinds of things. But when our neshama can speak up again and can call out to Kodesh Baruch Hu, help, save me, take me out of this, HaKadosh Baruch Hu is going to answer and take us out of it. And let's not give up on ourselves, no matter how many times that we find ourselves falling. That's the essence of being a human being in this world. We're going to fall. It's not about what happens when we fall. It's about what happens afterwards and how we help ourselves get up. I'm going to check the chat and see if anybody had any questions. If anybody wants to unmute, you can also go ahead and
hello, I just wanted to say thank you so much. This is Shirley. This was amazing. God bless you, Chaya.
I'm so happy to hear you. Thank you.
I second that.
You.
I second that. Nice to be here. Looking for.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Shirley. Yeah, what were you saying? The second speaker? Yeah.
Oh yeah, I said I second that, and I thank you, and have a good Shabbos, and looking forward to next week.
Thank you. It's great to have you, Ms. Todd. So thank you so much.
Okay, bye-bye.
Okay, so just going back into what was in the chat here, Francis asked, so is shame for Nevera a Yetzer Hara to take us away from Tshuva? Exactly. The shame, so shame is such a huge concept, okay? Because shame can be used to despair and to make us think that we're absolutely given up and that there's no way back. But the shame of our existence, the fact that we live in an imperfect existence, and that we are imperfect, and so we can have a sense of busha, a sense of healthy. I'm embarrassed that I did that, right? Like I stand before Kadosh Baruch Hu, I start with an intention to pay attention to what I'm saying in Shemona Esrei. All of a sudden, I find myself literally in the middle of some complex thought about something. I'm like, oh my gosh, I was in the middle of Shemona Esrei. Like, what shame, right? It's embarrassing. It's really embarrassing. You know what? We all find ourselves in that situation sometimes. So to think that I'm terrible, the shame that takes us away from Shuv is the shame that makes me think I'm bad. Okay, I'm bad and I'm shameful. Rather than that was an embarrassing deed. I did something embarrassing, and my embarrassment is in order to help me realize that I can improve in this. Okay, so yes, and there's so much to say about shame and how there are so many people that cannot manage their own shame, and we sense within them that they have this deep sense of low self-esteem and shame, and then they project that onto those around them because they don't own it. They don't own the embarrassment about their own deeds, and it's too painful for them to witness it, and so they project it onto everybody else around them, and so shame becomes a weapon to make somebody else feel that they are bad, they are unlovable, they are to blame, they are bad, and that is absolutely the furthest thing from Yiddishkeit. Okay, so any kind of thinking like that comes from dysfunction and trauma. It does not come from Yiddishkeit, and we have to really internalize that and understand. And if we have other people who are trapped in the elements of shame, we have to know that we don't take on anybody else's shame. It's their business. No one can project that hatefulness and that somebody is unlovable onto somebody else. And if someone's doing that, they have to learn to witness their own shame. Okay. Anybody else wanted to ask? And I see there's no.
Thank you. I'm going to get off now, but thank you so much.
Thank you.
Great, everybody. Okay. Thank you for being here. Have a wonderful Shabbos, everybody. Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you.
If anybody wants to take it to the next level and start to work and heal the hurt of different dysfunctional kinds of relationships, then you can click on the link in the description of this YouTube video, and it will be also in the email that comes with this recording. Bye, everybody.
Thank you.
Thank you for coming on. Lovely to see you.
Same here.